Oh, it's the same everywhere. Personally, I read that line an awful lot on message forums and even on comments to YouTube videos, my videos and other people's videos, other content creators. And normally the line of, oh, it's the same everywhere, or it's as equally bad everywhere, or the same thing is happening everywhere, it tends to be written by Brits, and what they're doing is they're using it in the context of there's no point in emigrating from Britain because everywhere else is exactly like Britain. In other words, as equally as bad, stroke, miserable, stroke, basket case, hopeless, etc. So you'll often see this when somebody's posted up a video, and it might be somebody, a Brit, an expat who decided to leave Britain and they've gone somewhere else, and they're basically talking about their new life. And you'll then get comments next to that video or underneath the video saying that, oh no, it's just as bad in country X as it is in Britain. It's the same everywhere. So what I'm going to do now is just like talk about this phenomenon. Like, what does it indicate? Is it true? Why do people write those things? So why do people write those things? You know, why do they write, oh, it's the same everywhere? Well, the first thing to kind of understand is that is it a statement, a written statement based on fact? Now, here I would probably say no, it's not, because the type of person who's saying it's the same everywhere as it is in Britain, this type of person is living in Britain. They've only ever lived in Britain. They might have gone abroad, I don't know, maybe to Tenerife or the Algarve in Portugal, or they might have gone to Tuscany or whatever, but they've never lived and worked abroad. So their statement is not based on a genuine experience. It's based on second-hand information. You know, because to actually understand what it's like to live in a country, you can't just go on a 2-week holiday and extrapolate from there. What you've actually got to do is to go and live and work in that country, learn the lingo, interact with the locals, and just engage in what they do, and go and play the sports that they play, or watch the sports that they play. You know, just go completely local. And what I see is the people making those sorts of comments of, oh, there's no point in emigrating from Britain because everywhere else is just as bad. These are the type of people that have never done that. These are the, like, I don't know, couple of foreign holidays a year type people. So why do they do it? Well, in a nutshell, there's two reasons really. First of all, they lack the experience of living and working abroad, because they lack the get up and go needed to leave their friends and their established way of life back in Britain and press the gamble button and go and emigrate. And it takes a lot of, believe me, it takes a lot of guts to leave your old country, it's like, they often say it's like going back to your old country. It's like putting on a pair of slippers, an old comfortable pair of slippers. It's all very easy. You know what the social rules are, you know the lingo, you can express yourself, you can read social situations, because they're all very similar to you, because this is what you've experienced all the way through your life. In contrast, when you emigrate, all of that is thrown up in the air. It's almost like that scene in Alice in Wonderland, you know, where Alice is like in the storm, and you know, her old life, the house like lifts off the ground, and all of Alice's life is whirled around like inside an imaginary washing machine. But I think the people that write, oh, it's the same everywhere, there's no point in emigrating, I think secretly they do feel bad about themselves. They do kind of deep down acknowledge their own lack of courage, their own lack of taking the initiative, and they feel bad about themselves. So to feel better about themselves, they say, well, there's no point in me pressing gamble and trying something different because, and here's the comfort blanket, it's the same everywhere, it's as equally bad. So you can watch the decline in Britain, you can see your living standards declining rapidly, both in material terms as the British economy craters, and probably more importantly in non-material terms as the demographics of Britain changes and crime and the lack of social cohesion just eats away at the social fabric of Britain. This is going to hurt you. So, you know, in your subconscious you might think, well, maybe I should press the gamble button, but you're too chicken to do that. So you grab the comfort blanket of, oh, it's equally as bad everywhere. So therefore there's no point in me trying to emigrate, and I'll just stay where I am. And I'll denigrate anybody who has been brave enough to press the gamble button by just mocking it and saying, well, there's no point because it's the same everywhere else. Everywhere else is just as bad as Britain. So there's an element of subjectivity here. You know, is everywhere else as bad as Britain? Well, from my personal perspective, what I would say is it's like 3.5 years now since I left the UK back in November 2020, and we're in mid-April 2024. I have zero regrets here. The quality of life in Finland is astronomical, both in material and non-material terms. I love the climate here. You know, you can see here we don't really get we get a lot of blue sky days, let's say that, to avoid the Gulag tube censorship. There seems to be less geoengineering here, so I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy to live in a society that is still culturally coherent. Finns are very proud of being Finnish, and they're quite right to be proud of being Finnish. Finland is still Finland in a way that England is not English anymore. So from my point of view, the statement of, oh, there's no point in emigrating because everywhere else is just as bad as Britain, well, in my experience, I would just say, phooey, that's a load of nonsense. Bad things are happening in Britain that aren't happening in other countries. So for example, you know, if you look at places like Hungary, Poland, they've been able to hold on to their cultures. Their media isn't trying to make Poles be ashamed of being Polish, or Czechs being ashamed of being Czech, or Finns being ashamed of being Finnish. And society still functions here pretty well. You know, and people are not being, like, people talk about the cost of living here in Finland, but, you know, I think, like, at the moment the price of electricity is 8 cents a kilowatt hour. You know, people can still live here. Young people are still able to get married, have children, and it's all affordable still. And this is down to the fact that there's less government interference in people's lives here, contrary to what the BBC will tell you. We actually have like market prices for stuff like electricity rather than price controls like you have in Britain. There's no such thing as tax credits. So things like council tax, my council tax here is €200 a year, when in Guildford I was paying back in 2020, so it's gone up by now, I'm sure, I was paying over €2,000 a year in council tax. So I don't know, €2,200 a year for nothing, for somebody to badly empty my bins once a fortnight if I'm lucky. So what bad things are happening in Britain? Why are things kind of uniquely bad in Britain? And the simple answer is Britain is part of what's called the Five Eyes countries. So the Five Eyes are Britain, America, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Those are the five. And this for me is the epicenter of, let's see if I can, I'll reverse this phrase, right? Order, world, new, right? So reverse that and you'll get what. It's a center of the kind of the satanic cabal that has been pushing the Greta reset agenda. So, you know, if you look at the most egregious human rights abuses, these were happening in the Five Eyes countries, and the Five Eyes countries coordinate their activities. So, you know, if I was living in Britain, I wouldn't think that everywhere else is as bad as Britain, but I would think that things are also pretty bad in Australia. Things have been pretty bad in New Zealand. Things have been pretty crazy in Canada, and to a lesser extent America. But there are still many, many good places that you can leave. You can go to. If you're sick of Britain, don't just stay there. If you don't like what's happening in your country, yes, you can try to change it. I tried to do that. I went to 2 demonstrations, I spoke out, I lost my job in England, I've resigned over it, but no one else seemed interested. So it was at that point, I make it analogous to, imagine being, I don't know, you parachuted out of a Lancaster bomber and you found yourself in Colditz, and all the other prisoners inside the POW camp, they're all like defeatists. Oh, there's no point in trying to get out. It's just as bad outside as it is in here. Let's just enjoy the ride down into hell and just pretend that there's nothing that we can do about it. Well, for me, that wasn't an option. I always used to say this to students, because there would be some students and they'd just moan, but they wouldn't do anything personally to change their own situation for the better, and all they'd do is just moan. I just used to remember students like sat in the library talking, distracting other students, and you'd go over to them and say, like, just stop talking, well, you're not supposed to talk in here. And I'd ask them, like, what are you talking about? And 9 times out of 10 they were moaning about all the work that they had to do. So I just used to say to them, like, what are you doing? Like, rather than just moaning about the work that you've got to do, why don't you actually just start doing some of the work and shut up? And that's what I think about these people that write on YouTube comments or on message forums, web forums. Oh, they're trying to pour cold water on other people's ambitions who've got more get up and go. Misery loves company, I think is the phrase, isn't it? And because they lack the get up and go to make internal changes, to do something themselves to make their own lives better, they decide to make themselves comfy inside the POW camp and be a good, obedient prisoner. Yeah, and then they'll say to people like me, I ran away to Finland. I didn't run away from Finland. You know, I did like the Steve McQueen on the motorbike and jumped over the barbed wire fence. It was me that took the risks and pressed the gamble button and tried to make my life better. And guess what? It worked. So sometimes, you know, what do they call? What is that phrase? Isn't there in Latin? Somebody will tell me. Who dares wins, that's the one. So yeah, my closing comment would be, don't moan about things that you can change, and you can change things, and don't make excuses, just change something. And then the other thing that I would say to people is, you know, there's no point in like pressing the gamble button because it's the same everywhere. Well, first of all, your statement is based on ignorance, like almost certainly. And then the second thing is that you might convince yourself of that fact. Yeah, but what your own, like, lying to yourself, it won't change your own situation. You making that excuse to yourself won't change the fact that Britain is going down the hole like rapido, and you'll be, you know, you've decided to go down with the sinking ship. So yeah, that's all I want to say today. So I hope I haven't upset too many people, but God bless.